Edmund Kemper, a name that sends shivers down the spine, a name that has become synonymous with unspeakable horror and chilling brutality, a name whispered in hushed tones, synonymous with horror. His story is not just one of violence, but of a deeply troubled mind, a mind that was shaped by a tumultuous upbringing and a series of unfortunate events. Born in 1948, his childhood was a breeding ground for darkness. The seeds of his future atrocities were sown early in the fertile soil of a broken home and a fractured psyche, a towering figure, even as a boy. His imposing stature was matched only by the growing darkness within him. He was a child who never quite fit in, always on the fringes, always an outsider. His parents' volatile relationship cast a long shadow. The constant fighting, the emotional turmoil, it all left an indelible mark on young Edmund. He was a witness to anger and hatred, emotions that would later fuel his own monstrous actions. At 15, the monstrous within first erupted. He murdered his grandparents. This act of violence was not just a cry for help, but a harbinger of the horrors that were yet to come. It was a chilling prelude to a life of unimaginable brutality, a chilling premonition of the horrors to come. The darkness that had been festering within him was now unleashed, and there was no turning back. The world would soon come to know the true extent of his depravity. Sent to a mental institution, he wore a mask of sanity. He learned to manipulate, to deceive. In the sterile halls of the institution, he honed his skills, becoming a master of disguise, a wolf in sheep's clothing. His time there only served to sharpen his predatory instincts, preparing him for the horrors he would later unleash upon the world. Standing at 6'9", Kemper was physically imposing. His height alone made him stand out in any crowd, a giant among men. People would often stop and stare, their eyes widening in awe and fear. His presence was almost otherworldly, a towering figure that seemed to cast a shadow over everything and everyone around him. A giant of a man. But it wasn't just his size that made him terrifying. His intellect, however, was his most dangerous weapon. Kemper was not just a brute. He was a highly intelligent individual, capable of outthinking and outmaneuvering those who underestimated him. His intellect, however, was his most dangerous weapon. He spent hours reading, absorbing information like a sponge. Books on psychology, criminology, and human behavior were his favorites. He studied them meticulously, learning how to manipulate and control those around him. His mind was a labyrinth of dark thoughts and sinister plans. He possessed a cunning that sent shivers down the spines of those who crossed his path. His ability to read people, to understand their fears and desires, made him a master manipulator. He could see through the facades that people put up, and he used this knowledge to his advantage, playing mind games that left his victims feeling helpless and terrified. His voice, deep and resonant, held a hypnotic quality. When he spoke, people listened. His words were like a siren's call, drawing them in, making them feel safe and understood. But beneath the surface there was always an undercurrent of danger, a sense that something was not quite right. He could charm and disarm with ease. In social settings, he was the life of the party, always knowing exactly what to say to make people laugh or feel at ease. His charm was a mask, hiding the darkness within. Those who met him were often taken in by his charisma, never suspecting the true nature of the man behind the smile. But behind his piercing gaze, a darkness lurked. His eyes, cold and calculating, betrayed the true nature of his soul. They were windows into a mind that was always plotting, always scheming. A mind that found pleasure in the suffering of others. A darkness that would soon consume the lives of many young women. They were drawn to him, like moths to a flame, unaware of the danger that awaited them. His charm and intelligence made him seem trustworthy. But once they were in his grasp, there was no escape. The monstrous within him would soon reveal itself, leaving a trail of broken lives and shattered dreams in its wake. Released back into society, Kemper began his reign of terror. He preyed on young women, hitchhikers, students, the co-ed killer the press dubbed him. His victims, trusting and unsuspecting, lured into his web of death. He would drive them to secluded areas, their fear fueling his twisted desires. Each murder meticulously planned, each a gruesome reflection of the darkness that consumed him. Kemper was no mindless brute. His intelligence, his ability to plan and execute, made him all the more terrifying. He kept trophies, mementos of his victims, a chilling testament to his calculated madness. He even participated in therapy sessions with law enforcement, offering insights into the mind of a serial killer. A macabre game of cat and mouse, all while he continued his killing spree. Section 5. The Mask of Sanity. Kemper's ability to blend in was remarkable. He was articulate, even charming. He held down jobs, interacted with people, all while harboring monstrous secrets. His intelligence allowed him to compartmentalize, to separate the monster within from the facade he presented to the world, a mask of sanity that made his crimes even more unsettling. Section 6. Rituals of Death. Kemper's killings were more than acts of violence, they were rituals. Each murder was meticulously planned and executed with a chilling precision. He didn't just kill, he orchestrated a macabre ceremony, a dark symphony of death. The crime scenes were often left in a state that suggested a deeper, more sinister purpose behind the brutality. He would often engage in necrophilia, further desecrating his victims. This act of violating the dead was not just an extension of his cruelty, but a profound statement of his dominance. It was as if he sought to obliterate any trace of their humanity, reducing them to mere objects for his perverse gratification. A profound lack of empathy, a chilling detachment from the sanctity of human life. His eyes, devoid of any warmth or remorse, reflected a soul consumed by darkness. This emotional void allowed him to commit acts of unimaginable horror without a second thought, viewing his victims as nothing more than pawns in his twisted game. His actions were fueled by a need for control, a desire to exert his will over his victims, even in death. This need for dominance was evident in the way he manipulated and restrained his victims, ensuring they were utterly powerless. The chains and restraints were not just tools of physical control, but symbols of his psychological grip over them. Each act a gruesome performance in his own twisted play. The blood-spattered scenes, the eerie symbols, and the shadowy rituals all pointed to a mind that reveled in the theatrics of death. For Kemper, murder was not just an end, but a means to create a dark legacy, a series of acts that would forever etch his name in the annals of infamy. Section 7. Twisted Games. Kemper toyed with the authorities. He left false clues, misdirected investigators. He reveled in the fear he instilled. Each murder a macabre victory in his twisted game. He craved recognition, not for fame, but for the power it represented. The power to instill fear, the power to control life and death. Section 8. The Confession. In a shocking turn of events, Kemper confessed his crimes. He called the police, calmly detailing his horrific deeds. He had reached a breaking point, the weight of his own darkness finally crushing him. His confession sent shockwaves through society. The intelligent, articulate man, a monster in disguise. The realization, a chilling indictment of our inability to recognize the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. Section 9. Legacy of a Twisted Mind. Edmund Kemper's crimes left an indelible mark on the American psyche. He became a chilling reminder of the duality of man, the terrifying potential for evil that can reside within a seemingly ordinary exterior. His case continues to fascinate and horrify, a dark chapter in criminal history. A stark reminder of the importance of understanding the motivations of those who commit such unspeakable acts.